Today we talked about how you can effectively choose what method you want to solve by. So for example, on your constructed response, there's one that says like make an equation that you can solve, for the answer. You could really do it by whatever method you want in that case. And then same thing on your final exam. For the constructed response for this unit, one of your options that you could choose to do is to solve the quadratic using any method. So if you want to work like smarter, not harder, then that's what today's lesson was. Not every single method is possible for every single problem. There's a couple that are always possible. What method is always possible? Quadratic formula is the one that you just have to put it into standard form, identify A, B, and C, put it in the formula. You don't even have to memorize the formula, you just have to know how to simplify, and that one will work all the time. Not everything is factorable though. Not everything can just be isolated, and completing the square is possible to do it when A is not 1. We're just not teaching it to you this year because it's not in our curriculum. You'll learn it next year or the year after that. Be happy that you don't have to because it's already a lot of steps at this. So we went over why those methods are desirable, and then I kind of told you what I would probably go through first. I would probably check to see if you can just isolate the x, but that can only happen when there's no linear term. But usually I think that one's the easiest because it's just the same algebra you've been doing all year. Then I would probably see if it's factorable. And then if that doesn't work, I'd probably just go to quadratic formula. Completing the square, I don't usually opt to do, and you can only do it under certain circumstances anyways. One thing I did want to touch on though, because some of these in our notes and probably some of them on your practice have some ugly answers, like this one. For you to be able to tell if your answer is even like on the right track, you can always check it using Desmos, but you should definitely not use Desmos as a starting place. But here's how you can check it with Desmos. So the original equation, I'm going to type in the x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 73, that. And it'll just put, because I put the equal sign, it'll just put straight lines through it, through the answers. Now, if I'm trying to see if my answer was even close, because sometimes the simplifying, can even be harder. What I put as my answer is plus or minus 5 radical 3 plus 3. Eyes on the screen, please. To test if that's right, so I already know what my answer should be, like what decimals those should be close to. I need to type in first the positive 5 radical 3. And then it was plus 3 as well. I'm going off of this first answer from our notes. And then in a different cell, I would try where that plus or minus was here, the negative. And I would compare it to the decimals that I have here. So you see how that's the same decimal, albeit just rounded a little bit? That's how you can tell if you even are anywhere close. If it's not the same decimals, then you did something wrong in your steps. So for example, if you're in my 4th hour from yesterday, you guys had a different assignment than my other algebras yesterday. You guys already did this coloring activity. This one has it in decimal form. I need to still see like the putting it in my quadratic form and then simplifying it to get something close to that. All right, questions? Okay, so as long as you're able to get to like practicing all the steps, it's up to you which method you use. We already talked about the pros and cons of each method. So your practice is evens or odds. And
show me once you're done, and then I'll let you go get your phone and you can continue working on other stuff that you're missing or have questions on. Good? Okay. Practice today. See that one? So it's up to you what method you want to do on this. I'm not requiring that you have to do like each method at least once. It's up to you. There's certain methods that you can't do. So let me just kind of put the little checklist from earlier. Yes. All right, stop talking, please. So, would I be able to just isolate the x in number 11? Solving by square roots is what they call it, but really it's just isolating x. Can I just isolate x in number 11? All right, let's see what the notes say for that one. So square roots method, which is really just isolating x, you can only do that when there is no linear term, which is like the b term. Is there a linear term in this? So that means I cannot do that method. So you cannot just isolate the x in number 11. Should I do completing the square? Let's see what that method says. When a is 1 and when b is even, it's best to use that method. So a is not 1 in this one. So don't try to do completing the square. I've not even taught that to you. You won't learn it till next year. So really it's between factoring and quadratic formula. I'm looking at it and I can already kind of tell factoring might be a little more challenging because a is not 1. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means that I'll have some extra steps later on. So you might be able to do it. I don't know. But quadratic formula would be the one that I recommend for this one. Now for quadratic formula and for factoring, actually. Can you put this on the holder? For factoring and for quadratic formula, you need to have it set equal to 0. Is it set equal to 0 right now? No, it is not. It doesn't matter what side you make 0, but anytime that I can have the x squared be positive, I think that that's usually easier. So I'm going to cancel out the 14 and the negative 4x. How do I cancel out the 14? I want it to become 0, so if it's 14 right now, I need to subtract it. And whatever you do on one side of the equal sign. Now, there's no like terms with the 14 on the other side, so don't try to combine it with anything, but remember to put it on the other side. Over here, how would I cancel the negative 4x? How do I make the negative 4x become 0? You add it. And whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, and I'm lining that one up with its like term. And now my right side is 0. My left side I need to rewrite, so there's no other x squared term. What's negative 5x plus 4x? Negative 1x. And then the negative 14 didn't have a like term, but it's still there. So this is just me rewriting it so that I could identify my A, B, and C. Table 1, what's going to be my A? Table 7, what's going to be my B? No. Negative 1 is correct. Table 5, what's going to be my C? Good. So that's the next step. You have to properly identify these if you're going to put it into your quadratic formula correctly. Here's the quadratic formula. This should be in your notes, or you could also easily Google it.
This is the only formula you don't have to memorize, because it'll be provided to you. So when I plug it in, anytime you plug in, you need to use parentheses or you will get the wrong answer. I do negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, I don't try to skip any steps there. I kind of just double check, did I plug things in the right way? Put the right numbers, put the parentheses, because if you don't, it will give you a wrong answer. And then I'll start simplifying. So what happens with this negative 1? Good. The discriminant, what's under the square root symbol, I always put in my calculator. I don't even try to reduce any of that by hand. The 2 times 3, though, I could do. What's 2 times 3? So I'm going to put what's under the square root symbol in the calculator really quick.
How would you put that?
I'm going to show you right now. Your handheld calculator, as long as you press the same buttons as I do on Desmos, it should be fine. If you can't find those buttons, let me know. But you have to put the parentheses. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Oh, that's too big. Okay. Negative 1 in parentheses, then you square it. If it's not in parentheses, it's going to tell you the wrong answer. Minus 4 times 3 times negative 14, just like that. So what's under my square root symbol is 169. Do we know if that's a perfect square or not? Well, here's how you can tell. In a different cell, click the square root button. 169, the square root is 13. So that is a perfect square. So that means that this part of it is going to be replaced with a 13. So it's really just 1 plus or minus 13 over 6. And I'm going to use my calculator even for that part too. Everyone with me so far though? Okay. So my calculator in a different problem, I'm going to do first 1 plus 13. And if you're using a handheld calculator, you'll really want to make sure you put your numerator in parentheses and then the denominator in parentheses. So it'll be 1 plus 13 over 6. That's one of the answers. If I want the fraction, I'm going to press the fraction button, which I do because that was a decimal that went on forever. In a different cell, I want to do the 1 minus 13, then divided by 6, and that's my other answer. So my two answers are 7/3 and -2. Questions on that? Okay, do we have any other questions from any other practice or anything? Going once. Going twice. Okay, well, you just let me know.